In this video, we're going to look at a 1-octave scale that's great for a beginner guitarist. We're going to look at the theory behind what makes a major scale. We're going to look at some left-hand tips about how to play that so we develop technique as you play through this scale. Let's get started. First, let's look at the makeup of a major scale, one of the most common scales that we deal with. If we started on the note C, here on the 5th string, 3rd fret, and we went up in a series of whole steps and half steps, we would get the major scale. So a whole step is where we skip one fret, skip a fret, play the next fret. That's a whole step. And a half step is where we play the next fret in line. Right? So we've got whole steps and half steps. So a major scale, if you follow along with me, starts with whole step, half step, then whole step, whole step, half step. So starting on C again, it goes whole, half, whole, half. That's quite easy, and in fact, if you repeat that pattern at any point on the fretboard on a single string and go up whole steps and half steps in that organized fashion, you'll get that major scale that starts to become very recognizable. However, that kind of movement on the guitar isn't that practical. It's not that efficient either to constantly be shifting up and down the fingerboard. So we cross strings. And if we take the same notes as we just played, but we use different strings, we can play them all in this position here of the guitar, so without shifting around the hand. Alright, so the intervals remain the same, the distance between those notes, but we're just using the other strings to our advantage so that we can play all those notes in one position. So when we go up from a scale, we're ascending. And when we start at the top of the scale and come back down, we're descending. If you come into the academy and take the theory course, we'll talk about the intervals between those notes and the names of the functions or the names of the notes within that scale. But now I want to introduce to you some technical things to look out for, in particular with the left hand when playing scales. When playing scales and crossing strings, we have a note here on the 5th string, 3rd fret, that's C, and then we'll play D on the open 4th string. Now if you leave down your finger that played the C, you'll get a sound like this. That ringing over of notes. When we move from one string to another, we actually want to lift our finger so that we get a clean note and we don't have those notes overlapping. However, when the notes occur on the same string, like here, E and F, 2nd fret and 3rd fret on the 4th string, it's good to practice keeping your fingers down. So that looks like this. 2nd finger down, 3rd finger down. So they're both down, and you might ask, why would you keep your 2nd finger down if it's not being used, if that note there is being played by the 3rd finger? Well, the reason is that it actually simplifies the movement of our hand. If we did this, then lift, we're actually adding an extra movement into the hand that we don't need. So if we keep the finger down, it stabilizes the hand and it removes one extra movement. So it makes our movement nice and efficient. So we've got two ideas there. One is that when we cross strings, we want to lift the finger so we don't have overlapping sound. Lift. And then when we're playing on the same string, we keep the fingers down. Now on the way down, we have a similar approach. And here now we play the next string. We don't really have the problem of overlapping so much on the way down. Now when it comes to having two notes on the same string like we did here, the E and the F on the 4th string, you can actually use this as an opportunity to train your hand to be efficient and nice and close to the fingerboard by bringing down those two fingers together. instead of 3, 2, open, you can actually go 3 and 2 down, 3 and 2 together down on the notes, and down to open. It's a small detail that trains your hand to be nice and efficient and stay close to the strings. Now the last thing I'll say that is helpful with beginner scale practice is keeping the fingers over the strings as you're playing. What's very easy to do is to have one finger playing the note and the other fingers are doing all sorts of different things. Now I know in the early stages of development, the fingers seem to have a mind of their own, and they you know, the finger independence and the control of those fingers can be really difficult. But if you can, place down the note that you're going to play and bring the other fingers that aren't being used to play notes hovering over that string. And so the movement, all that we need is that movement. So anything that looks like this, you know, we try and remove that from our playing and remove it down to the most simple, basic, calm, and efficient movements. Fingers not playing any string here, but they're still hovering over the strings in a line. Then E and F, I'm holding them down together because they're on the same string. Notice that fourth and first finger are still nice and relaxed over the string. Open, second, open, first. So those are 3 technical aspects you can focus on when playing a 1-octave scale for the beginner guitarist.